Hey, Shalom, Mr. Brother Abad, you're back here again. Before I get started, like always, I want to give all praises and glory to Yahweh Ba'Hashem, Yahweh Shai Ba'Hashem, Chachak double honors to my teachers, the elder apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom to the hopeful elect. I'm gonna play a little bit of this video. So look, I'm gonna play a little bit of this video, and I'm gonna bring out some scriptures, but it's basically going into how to discipline your mind, discipline your spirit, to think upon the things that are beneficial towards you as a man, and not to always allow your fleshly mind, all right, your carnal being to control yourself, all right, not allowing your fleshly desires, carnal wants to direct your path and lead you down certain paths, but to learn discipline, to learn control, to learn restraint, to learn abstinence, and to live that stoic life as a man of the Lord should desire to live. A man of the Lord should desire to live after righteous moral principles. All right. In Sirach, it tells you that the whole duty of man is to keep the Lord's commandments. All right. Fear the Lord and keep his commandments.
Tools must be trained to respond.
I'm going to play some of this
Chapter
video.
2,
some,
the principle,
scriptures.
Kokoro no Shihai. The next month, Musashi did something strange. He stopped training in sword technique completely. His training partners thought he'd gone insane. Musashi, there's a tournament next month. Why are you just sitting there? But Musashi wasn't just sitting. He was studying. What was he studying? His own mind. He started tracking every moment his mind resisted him, like a researcher documenting a wild animal's behavior. Morning. Decision to wake at dawn. Mind's response, 5 more minutes. Result, Musashi obeyed his mind, not his decision. Midday. Decision to practice kata for 1 hour. Mind's response, this is pointless. Think about girls instead. Result, Musashi obeyed his mind, not his decision. Evening. Decision to skip the sweet rice cakes. Mind's response, just one won't hurt. Result, Musashi obeyed his mind, not his decision. After 30 days of this documentation, Musashi saw the pattern with crystal clarity. He wasn't in alignment with his mind. His mind was operating independently. And here's the truly disturbing part. This meant he wasn't really making decisions at all. His mind was making decisions, and he was just following along like a passive observer. You know what's crazy?
And just to say something right there on this, you know, whatever guy, whether this is a fictional guy, this video is going into a heathen, whatever, it's irrelevant to the actual basis of this video. The point of this is, you know, it's saying how, like, for example, he wanted to get up at a certain time, but his mind said to stay asleep. You know, his spirit said stay asleep, so he stayed asleep, meaning, you know, he doesn't have control over his spirit. He doesn't have control over his mind. He hasn't disciplined himself. He hasn't disciplined his spirit to know, oh, okay, even though my mind, which is really your flesh, that's weak, that's saying, let me stay in the bed longer. A disciplined man, a man that has control over his spirit, will get up regardless, all right? Matter of fact, let me get a precept real quick so I don't linger on too long. Where's that at? Romans 12. Let's go there. Romans 12. Verse 2. It says, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of the Most High. So, you know, you have to renew your mind, all right? Start afresh, transform your way of thinking, your way of moving. You know, don't allow the flesh to control your spirit. spiritual man should have control over the things he does. For example, you may like to eat certain foods that are unhealthy, that causes health problems for you. The flesh desires it, all right? So are you just going to eat it because, you know, you have that craving, or are you going to train yourself up and discipline yourself to be able to abstain and control and monitor that, even if you don't completely quit cold turkey, you know, to start to wean off of the bad things that you have in your life, all right, to cut off the fat that you have in your life more and more as you discipline yourself more and more. Are you willing to do that? Or are you just, you know, going to allow your flesh, your carnal being, your worldly being to control every move that you make? Right? That's a major decision that you have to
Crazy. Most people live their entire lives like this and never even notice. So, Musashi developed a system. He called it Kokoro no Shihai, mastery of the heart-mind. The core principle was simple but radical. Treat your mind as a separate entity that must be trained, not as something you are. He wrote in his journal, "The undisciplined mind is like a wild horse. It will throw you, injure you, and take you nowhere you want to go. But a trained horse, it goes where you direct, stops when you direct, responds to the slightest pressure." But here's the question that stops.
Notice he went into the analogy of a trained horse and an untrained horse. All right, what does the scriptures teach us? See, really, all proper wisdom and understanding goes back to the scriptures, man. It all goes back to the scriptures. Verse, matter of fact, this is the book of Sirach, and I'm gonna start at the book of Sirach, chapter 30, and I'm gonna start at verse 7. It says, "He that maketh too much of his son shall bind up his wounds, and his bowels will be troubled at every cry." Meaning you have to discipline yourself, discipline your son at an early age, instill the proper morals and discipline and self-control traits within him at an early age. Verse 8, here goes the analogy of a horse. "And the horse not broken becometh headstrong, and a child left to himself will be willful." So you got to train it. You got to train it just like you got to train your son, just like you would train a horse. That you know, you don't want that horse to grow up and you didn't take the time out to train it and discipline it. So now it's rebelling against you at every turn. All right. Same with your body, your temple, which the Lord has given to you. It'll disobey you. It'll rebel against you at every turn if you haven't disciplined your mind. All right. You're just walking around with no control over your vessel. The vessel is controlling you. All right. Remember, it's a spiritual battle. We're in these fleshly bodies.
How do you actually train a mind?
Man.
You can see when a horse is trained. You can measure when a body gets stronger. But the mind, it's invisible. How do you even know if it's working? Musashi realized, the same way you train anything. Through progressive challenge, consistent reinforcement, and removing resistance pathways. Simple in theory, brutal in practice.
Download now.
Hello. Do you want to play with me?
Fucking ad, man.
Chapter
Fucking ad
3,
on this video.
Progressive Commands.
Salakia. And you can watch the rest of this video on yourself. I just wanted to give you can watch the rest of this video yourself. I just wanted to give a basic for this video of controlling the mind, which goes to your la'ab in the Hebrew, your heart, your spirit, where your spirit dwells. Let me get Proverbs 25th chapter. Proverbs chapter 25, verse 8. It says, Proverbs 25. Oh no, let me go down. Proverbs chapter 25, verse 26. Start at verse 26. A righteous man falling down before the wicked is as a troubled fountain and a corrupt spring. It is not good to eat much honey, so for men to search their own glory is not glory. Yeah, honey is beneficial to you, but honey is very sweet. So if you eat too much of it, you will get sick. Moderation and everything. It's just like if you like to drink, right? You like alcohol, you need to drink it moderately. You don't need to become an alcoholic, because not only will it make you act irrational, right? Control your emotions and, putting yourself in dangerous situations as being a drunkard, but it's also unhealthy for your body to constantly fill it with nothing but, liquor. That's just one example. There's many type of crutches of the world and addictions of the world that you can apply that to. But moderation and everything is key. Moderate, but the only way to moderate something is to be able to have control over it and manage it properly. So you got to have control over your spirit. You got to train your spirit. You got to train your mind to be disciplined, right? To monitor and moderate the things that you partake in your life, specifically in this world, the things that you enter into and partake into in this world. Verse 28. Here's the point of this verse. It says, "He that have no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls." Right. So if you build up a civilization and you don't put walls there, and you have other nations around you that are looking to build up their city and conquer new lands and get new resources, all right, new people, what do you think they're going to do when they see you don't have no walls in your city? They're gonna steal from you. They may steal people from you. They may steal some of your cattle, some of your resources, all right, some of your precious, valuable items. Well, what do you think it's like if you don't build up them spiritual walls, them spiritual barriers, right, in your mind? The scriptures say to put on the armor of the Lord, all right? As a matter of fact, let me get that. Where is that at? Ephesians chapter 6. Ephesians chapter 6, starting at verse 10, it says, "Finally, my brethren, be strong in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua and in the power of his might, not in our own strength, because our horn of salvation is Hamashiach Yahushua. He's our strength." It says, "Put on the whole armor," not a little bit, "put on the whole armor of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore take unto you the whole armor of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, and having on the breastplate of righteousness." And the truth comes from the word, the scriptures. John chapter 6, verse 63, which is the spirit. So the only way to train yourself, discipline yourself properly, moderate the things that you partake in properly, is to be engulfed in this word, the true doctrine, the true precepts. All right, meditating upon the prophecies in the word daily, praying. All right. Verse 15, "And your feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Above all, taking the shield of faith, wherewith ye shall be able to quench all the fiery darts of the wicked." So you can't do none of this without, being engulfed in this word, being engulfed amongst the brotherhood, amongst the body, and building yourself up. It says, "And take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the spirit, which is the word of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua." See, I just said it. That's the spirit is the word, where the truth comes from, the comforter. me read that again. In the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Praying always with all prayer and supplication in the Spirit, because there's certain addictions and demons you can't get off of you, like the scriptures say, without fasting and praying. You may have to completely fast for something, you know, to get that thing out of your life. And pray heavy, you know. It says, in watching thereunto with all perseverance and supplication for all the saints. So that's pretty much the basis of the whole lesson, you know. Practice getting control of your mind, your spirit. The only way to do that properly is through the word, right, of Yahweh Shem Yahushua, the word that we've been gifted with, through the grace and